Hello and welcome to episode 305 of the Smash Accept podcast. I'm your host, Michael Royer. You can find me on Twitter at DynastyDadFF. We've been hitting it hard on YouTube this week. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button before you guys even get going. Any likes, anything, any comments, anything you guys want to know really helps us out with the way we've been growing on YouTube. Today's show, we've hit you already with the quarterback buys. We've hit you with startup season. Now we're trying to talk about, this 2025 running back class just keeps getting better and better. Guys emerging from the Senior Bowl, guys who's, as we start to see these mock drafts rising up in value, nobody better to talk running backs with than my main man, Snoog.
Yeah, I'm excited for this one. I mean, this running back class has been taking up a lot of my time. I've finally had the chance to dive through almost every single prospect. The rookie guide's coming out at the end of the week. I've had time to build out prospect profiles and grade out these prospects and dive through their film, dive through their production profiles for over 20-plus running back prospects in this class. 2017 had 30 running backs taken, which is the record. I think this class gets close or beats it. I think we're going to have at least 25 guys taken in the draft this year, and I think that we're going to have 10-plus taken before day 3 starts. So definitely excited. There's a lot of pick your poison type running backs, so nobody's really going to be wrong or right. It's literally just going to be, does the NFL like this guy to that guy because they already have a power guy, or does this guy like him because he's a receiver and they already have a guy that's a 3-down guy? That's how it's going to determine this class. So we're just excited to jump into here and tell you some of the guys that we like, why we like them, their skill sets, and how they translate to the NFL.
As you guys see down there, you can join our Patreon and smash the offseason, patreon.com/smash accept. You get Snoog's draft guide. You get right now 550 guys talking shop, startup strategy, rookie draft strategy, player values, pretty much anything you can get. It's been blowing up like crazy. So make sure you guys join that today. And, we're going to start diving into these rookie running backs. What you said was huge there is we have guys that what we're doing at this part of the process, we're trying to give you the players that we like. We're trying to give you all the nuts and bolts that you need. So when it comes to draft time, you aren't like, oh, you know what? The Chiefs took Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I'm going to take him. Snoog and I knew we were looking at something that was fool's gold right away, and every year you get that, Rashard Penny all of a sudden went to the Seahawks in the first round. And you're like, yeah, but these were the warts that we saw along the process. So we're going to do things both good and bad. Snoog, the crazy part is, and we just did our startup strategy guide, our startup strategy show, and you took Ashton Jeanty at the 207, I believe. The craziest thing is he was going at 212, and the fact that we're starting to see mock drafts, his stock is actually going up. He's been our Dynasty RB3 for going on 2 months now, but Snoog, you see mock drafts having him go to the Cowboys at 12. The Bears at 10, the Broncos at 20. As long as he goes in that range, I still don't think people are high enough on the 101 and on Ashton Jeanty. I mean, he is a massive leap ahead of everybody else in this class. And I see people trading the 101 for the 105 and the 204, for the 106 and the 111. And I'm like, that's not it. I want a first between the 101 and the 102 is where I'm at right now. I am not selling this asset until we know exactly where he's landing.
Yeah, he scored an A+ grade in our prospect profile overview. So predictive metrics that we're looking at, like early age or early declare, breakout age. Did they have a season with 20+ receptions in college? Did they have an 1,000 yards rushing yard season? Did they have a season with 4+ yards after contact per attempt? He checked every single box, and the last box is draft capital. We know he's going to be drafted in that top 20 range. I think he's going to be a top 12 pick. That's the grade I have on him, and that's kind of where I have him slotted in. But he is going to be a new age Christian McCaffrey. People want to talk about, he didn't catch the ball much in his junior year. His sophomore year was damn near a generational receiving type talent. 3+ yards per route run, 500+ receiving yards, 45 receptions, right up there with CMC and Gibbs. So someone that you're only seeing every 4 to 5 years coming out of college with a receiving profile like that. So Ashton Jeanty, not much to say there. He's the only running back we have in the smash tier running backs we've had in the past. Jahmyr Gibbs, Bijan Robinson, not many others. So that's the type of player and prospect that he is. Guys like Breece Hall and those guys were workhorse running backs. They're not smash running backs. So Ashton Jeanty, you know the deal with him. If you've been listening to the show, we've been pounding that drum for a long time now. So
I think the biggest thing for me is I'm just telling everybody, treat the 101 is if you're trading Bijan Robinson. That's it. Because you
Yep.
were if you traded Bijan Robinson at the beginning of 2023 because you were like, you know what? I don't need a running back here. This isn't the right situation. Or, you know what? He hasn't played it down the NFL. Then you're not paying attention. You know, and Ashton Jeanty is darn near the same thing. Arguably could have a higher ceiling. You know, like both of these running backs, along with Jahmyr Gibbs, make up that smash tier that I'm not touching. Yeah, I am not trading these guys unless I get an elite level young wide receiver. I mean, you offer me Malik Neighbors, okay, it's done. You know what I mean? You offer me Puka plus, yeah, I'll take it. You know, and I think a majority of people don't want to trade those elite wide receivers, but Ashton Jeanty's stock surprisingly has gone up. You know, and as difficult as that is to say, another guy who I think, and we did this probably about a month ago, we did our 2025 running backs, you know, with our tiers. Brock did the edit on there. Make sure you guys go back and check it. We're just trying to check back in and tell you whose stock's going up, because another guy that I'm really starting to see his stock go into that round one. I think Daniel Jeremiah, I believe, was the one that said, I correct me if I'm wrong there, but Quinshon Judkins has round one upside. This is someone that a lot of teams are starting to fall in love with that could go in the first round. If not, and this is what everybody really needs to understand, is as long as they go before pick 50 in round two, that's essentially the same kind of thing, right? Because the NFL, the running backs are treated so much differently towards wide receivers. Wide receivers, you want them to go top 10, then you want top 18, then 24. Running backs, if you get a running back that goes top 10, that's what Jeanty's going to do. That's a set it and forget it smash tier type guy, right? You get someone that goes anywhere between 10 and 20, that's elite. And then you get anybody that goes before pick 50, and I guarantee that Judkins is a guy that is going to get that round two draft capital, a downhill runner, workhorse type running back. Snoog, the criticism that I keep getting from people, I mean, if you look at his footwork, it is elite. If you look at how he gets through the hole, how he attacks the hole with conviction, how he barrels through, you know what I mean? Like there's no nonsense in his game. And the only criticism that everybody keeps getting me is, well, he doesn't have long speed. He's going to run a 4.49. That's what the Ohio State had him at. I mean, like, this is a 3-down back, 4.49 in today's NFL. Yes, I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs and Devon Achane are running 4.3s, but we talked about it before. Bijan Robinson's in that 4.4. Kyron Williams is in 4.5s. Josh Jacobs is in the high 4.4s. James Cook, 4.5. So it's not a necessity to have that kind of breakaway speed, but it helps.
Yeah, Quinshon Judkins, you want to talk about a guy that can do it all. He's the guy that can win on first and second down. He can also be effective in the passing game as well. I don't know where he's not quick. He has no burst. He doesn't have good footwork. His vision stinks is coming from, but I don't know. You probably should stop watching film and stick to analytics if that's a takeaway you're getting from a guy that's had 3 back-to-back 1,000+ yard seasons, the best true freshman season we've seen out of a running back in the SEC. One of 2 running backs in this class with 1,000+ yards as a rookie. The other one was TreVeyon Henderson, his fellow teammate. But Quinshon Judkins is a guy that has the burst in the short areas. He has great vision. He can run through your face. He can stiff arm you to the ground. He's not Jahmyr Gibbs speed. He's not Devon Achane speed with that dynamic ability, but he's a Josh Jacobs. He's a Joe Mixon. He's a Kareem Hunt. He's that type of running back that is a 3-down guy. He can do it all at all 3 levels, and he can consistently slash you for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 yards a carry. So that's what makes him so special. He was efficient all 3 years of college, 3 straight seasons with 1,000+ yards and 15+ total touchdowns. Checks every box. Early declare, still 20 years old. A guy that came out of college at a young age as well. Breakout age at 18 years old in the SEC. He's going to get the draft capital in that second round range. A guy that had 20+ receptions in 2 seasons, 1,000+ rushing yards in 3 seasons. A grade in my prospect profile review, and I loved the film because to me, I'm saying, okay, I see everybody is down on this guy because they think Omarion Hampton or Caleb Johnson or some of these guys have a prettier outlook, right? Like they just had that big season. Quinshon Judkins had that season when those guys weren't even known of. None of you listening knew who those guys were when Quinshon Judkins was a superstar in college football on the biggest stage. No, he wasn't playing in the ACC against Syracuse. He wasn't playing in the Big Ten playing against Michigan State. He was in the SEC when the SEC was prime, and he was dominating 1,500+ yards with Zach Evans, who had top 3 and top 5 running back named all over him that year when Quinshon Judkins literally stole the role from him. So All signs point towards him to be good. I love the film. I thought I saw a lot of good things there from him. Power, finesse, he could do it all. So sign me up for him. He's a big riser. He's my RB3 in this class right now.
Yeah, I mean, his 2 years at Ole Miss, 20.8 and 21.1, touches per game. He was running the ball like crazy, 1,500 yards,
Workhorse.
Almost 1,200 yards. He's a workhorse, exactly. And then the part that drives me crazy is you look at when he went to Ohio State, people are like, he wasn't used as much. He went there with TreVeyon Henderson. Still had over 1,000 yards on just 12
What people don't understand either,
game.
That whole Ohio State offensive line was injured. They lost their center. They lost JT Simmons. Like, they lost everybody. Like, their O-line sucked. They couldn't run the ball between the tackles. That's why TreVeyon was thriving on the outside, because they started using Judkins like that as well. Like, Judkins got a lot of like options to the outside zone, stretches, getting him on the perimeter. That's how they used both of them for a variety of the season until they got into the red zone. Then it was Judkins' time. So that's another thing. Everything needs context.
The lack of breakaway speed. Who has the longest carry in on the national stage for the title, longest run in history? It's Quinshon Judkins with 70 yards. He also had an 86-yarder this year. Like, you don't break away that if you don't run for an 86-yard carry if you don't have breakaway speed. If you don't have that long speed. It's very sufficient. It's not going to be blow you away Gibbs, but it's right there. He is going to be a fantastic player at the next level. I'm totally in on him. Let's go on to staying in the same team. As much as we had TreVeyon Henderson, I think we had him as RB4 early on in the process. He
was like my 3/4. Yeah.
Right now, comfortably, both of our RB2s. He is that guy. And he is closer. Like we say, Ashton Jeanty's close to Bijan Robinson. TreVeyon Henderson is like Jahmyr Gibbs light. Like, he has the speed, the pass catching ability. He puts it all together, right? Like, Judkins has a good receiving skill set, and he could be in that spot. TreVeyon Henderson has a fantastic to elite level skill set when it comes to pass catching. So this is the guy that, we're talking about late first, early second. A lot of people are talking about that. I really want to see the Chiefs reach on one of these guys and just get them into a balanced offense. I really want to see, the Chargers get a guy early in round 2 that could be an elite level 3-down kind of guy. Like, there's so many teams that are in that late first, early second draft window that could be absolute smash landing spots. And I love a lot of these spots for TreVeyon Henderson. He can really do it all.
Yeah, you want to talk about a running back that can be deployed in numerous ways, versatility, speed, receiving upside. That's TreVeyon Henderson. The reason that he sets himself apart from Judkins, Caleb Johnson, and Marion Hampton to me is just from a fantasy football perspective. He can be deployed as a receiver. He can play outside. He can play the slot. There's a route, I forget who it was against, but he literally ran a go route and ran like the most beautiful route I've ever seen. Like, he literally broke the ankles of the DB and stacked them and caught the ball, tracking the ball over his shoulder, like 40 yards downfield. So his deployment and the way he could be used as a receiver out of the backfield, that's what NFL teams are looking for nowadays. They still love their traditional workhorse running backs, your Quinshon Judkins, your Caleb Johnsons, your Marion Hamptons, but they want that Jahmyr Gibbs, chain type player. My comps, I have 3 comps for TreVeyon Henderson. If Kenneth Walker, Travis Etienne, and Devin A-Chain all had a baby, that's what you would get a TreVeyon Henderson, because he's got the size and power as like a Kenneth Walker and Etienne, but he's got the speed and explosiveness as A-Chain. He's not going to be a 4.32 guy, but he's going to run in the 4. I think he'll be 4.38 to 4.4, like in that range, which is like Kenneth Walker, like Travis Etienne, but he plays like A-Chain. Like, he wastes zero movement, gets north-south quick. He can win outside. He wins in open space. Like, this guy is phenomenal. He has the power and the size too. He had 2 seasons of 4+ yards after contact per attempt. And the best thing about him, he checks every box besides being an early declare. He literally just came back to say, I can be healthy and I can play in that role. And he did it. He did it and proved it. Yeah. He's one of 2 running backs in this class with 1,000 yards. Him and Quinshon Judkins both had 1,200+ yards at 18 years old in the Big Ten and in the SEC. So production speaks for itself. And when the film checks the box too, sign me up. It's easy.
I really want to see the Broncos or maybe even the Bears in early round
I would
2.
love the
Like
Broncos, yeah, and the
I
Bears.
think
Those are the
I
two.
think
I have those landing spots down.
yeah, and I think we all want to see certain players go, Ashton Jeanty to go to certain spots, but TreVeyon Henderson going to these spots in the second round would be
Yeah,
fantastic. I mean, the Bears have a plus offensive line when it comes to run blocking, not so much offensive line when it comes to blocking for Caleb, but man, if they take a tackle in the first round, then they get TreVeyon in the second. I like that so
yep.
much better than for everybody with the Bears. You're not hearing a lot about Caleb Johnson recently, which is fine. Doesn't mean his stock's moving. The guy that you and I have not been high on, that the rest of the industry has, is basically the RB2. Set it and forget it. A lot of them are saying Omarion Hampton is looking at, a guy that could be going late round 1. And we're going to hear that a lot between these 5 guys. We have those 4 guys in smash tier. One guy in smash tier, then those next guys, set of guys there in that A tier. And we're splitting hairs because it's a very, very good group. But I think he's really starting to get a lot more buzz than people were talking about in the beginning.
Yeah, and that's why we do tiers, right? Because we have it TreVeyon, Judkins, Johnson, and Hampton all in a tier. That could change like that for us. Like they're all very similar prospects. The way I grade and the way I put, especially with the running back position, that I really like to take a lot of pride in, is with running backs, I'm taking the guys that can be the most versatile in any run scheme. Like I want guys that are chess pieces, right? Like Judkins and Henderson, to me, I can plug and play them anywhere. They're dynamic anywhere. They could be in a gap run scheme. They can be in a zone run scheme. I don't feel that way with Caleb Johnson and Omarion Hampton, although I do think they still have really high ceilings, and they can – all 5 of these guys are workhorse plus prospects. So to me, they're all top 10 to 12 dynasty running backs if they get good draft capital. But the thing that sets up an Omarion Hampton apart from the other guys, and same with Caleb Johnson, is Caleb Johnson needs a zone run scheme. Like he's not going to do good in any type of run scheme that isn't kind of that be patient, let the blocks form, be elusive, use your vision type, like slower through the hole type player. And then Omarion Hampton's get the ball and go. Like he's a 2-down bruiser. Yeah, I know he had 37 receptions and 30 receptions in his sophomore year. That doesn't tell me that he can catch the football, though. Like he can catch a 5-yard swing route. He could be a check down merchant. Anybody can be that in college football, and anybody can be that in the NFL. Can you be a guy that can do more? Are you elusive after the catch? Are you good in space? He's none of that. That's the issue with him. He's that Nick Chubb, that James Conner, like downhill bruiser, like get me the ball and I'm taking off type, like picking up 6 yards, picking up 7 yards. If there's a crease, I'm going to take off, which makes him a great prospect. I have a round 2 grade on him. He's another one. He has an A+ prospect overall. He checks every single box. Like he was one of 3. Him, Caleb Johnson, and Ashton Jeanty all checked the boxes as A+ grades because they're young, they're early declares. They broke out. They had 1,000-yard rushing seasons. They hit the reception mark. They were good after contact. But to me, it's like I want to see like TreVeyon Henderson and Judkins to me can go anywhere and be good. Like they could literally go anywhere. And I think that NFL teams are going to see that. They had more film on them throughout the stretch. And I really just like their film better with the way they can be deployed. But like you and I have always said, all it takes is Caleb Johnson to go to the Vikings or Omarion Hampton to the Raiders or the Chargers. They could be the RB2 in this class without a doubt.
Yeah. And this is like, again, we're trying to bring you the content so you're not like taking the RB6 of the class and taking him as the RB1 overall. I think the gap between RB1 and RB2 is larger than the gap between RB5 and RB6. Our 6, 7, those guys
7.
in that B tier. Yeah. I think Devin Neal and Cam Skattebo are really, really attractive running backs. I think, originally starting out in the process, looking at things, you're like, okay, Skattebo, where did it come from? What can he do? He's a dynamic bruising type running back, but then you look closer and it's like, damn, this guy can do it all. Like he can, has the most yards per route run in all of college football. He's really a 3-down back. And then you look at Devin Neal, 3 1,000-yard seasons over the last 3 seasons, 21 receptions or more, and that's kind of a benchmark we're looking for. I mean, There's a real-world scenario where we see Hampton and Johnson go to spots we don't like, and Neal and Skattebo go to these spots where we want with the Raiders and the Chargers and the Cowboys, and then you're like, damn, like these, you know what I mean? Like then we talk about there are arguably 7 guys that could get into that top 12 to 15 running backs with the right landing spots. And I love both of these guys. Let's start with Skattebo.
Yeah, Skattebo is so much fun to watch on film.
And
My
he's
comp for
Zolti's
him,
number 3.
Yeah, he's Zoltan's number 3. Yeah, we've been talking a lot, Zoltan and I, about it, and Skattebo is definitely one of my favorites in this class. He's a guy that I see a lot of David Montgomery in his game, like a big bruiser, 215, 220 plus pounder, but he's so elusive. He's got great footwork and patience and vision between the tackles, and he can also be deployed as a receiver on the outside. He's not going to be a burner. He's going to probably be a 4-5, 4-6 guy, but he's going to have a good 10-yard split. Great burst out of the backfield. So he's a guy, do it all workhorse, carry that Arizona State offense to the playoffs, carry them almost to a win over Texas. He had 2,300 all-purpose yards and like 25 touchdowns this year. He had like 60 plus or 45 plus receptions and 600 plus yards receiving. Do it all workhorse guy. There's not much to tell you more on Scatty. I think like there's a very big gap between Neal and Scatty with RB 8 and 9 in this class, who we'll get into shortly. But because to me, they're the most complete. They can catch the ball. They can be workhorse running backs. They both are 220 plus pounds. They both have good vision, good footwork. They had good production. That's what you're looking for in these running backs, right? Like the issue with a lot of guys, like when they come out, is they're either really good receivers or they're really good runners, but they don't have both. These guys have both. That's why they could crack that top 5, that top 6 in this class, because they both would have been my RB1 last year. I graded out all the rookie running backs last year and this year. I am about Bucky Irving would have been right after Devin Neal for me. So he would have been RB8 in this class. That's how incredible this class is. And that's how special. I think Cam Skattebo and Devin Neal, I have round 2 to 3 grades on them. I think they're probably going to fall in that like top 90, top 100 pick range, but they could go round 2 if a team feels strong about one of them and like doesn't see an Omarion Hampton or a Caleb Johnson as like a good pass catcher. I could see them grabbing a Skattebo or grabbing a Devin Neal instead.
And this is why I really like this class. And this is why in startups, I really like taking first round picks rather than some of these running backs, because it gives you that ultimate flexibility, or even that early second here with Skattebo and Neal. I mean, Skattebo, for real, 605 receiving yards, 45 receptions, 24 total touchdowns. That's wild. Like, I would love to see him land with the Bears in the you keep saying David Montgomery. Let's put him in the damn David Montgomery role with Ben Johnson. Like, that would be perfect. And even like a little bit more on a plus side where I could see him having 15 touchdowns like a David Montgomery in that offense with Ben Johnson. Really, keep DeAndre Swift, put him in that Gibbs role. Let Skattebo pound the rock, and just that would be, oh man, that gets me excited. And Devin Neal, I've been loving him. Like the only thing that he doesn't have the other guys was, again, like the early declare, but I think he falls into that B grade. This guy is explosive. Like the patience, I see him a lot of times with his patience behind the line, reminds me of Le'Veon Bell, where he just kind of almost looks like he's floating back there, and then boom, just hits. Yeah. Like you don't see that very much in today's NFL anymore, but you remember Le'Veon, he used to just be chilling back there. Like, is he moving? Then all of a sudden, zoom, right through that hole, and you have to be explosive.
That zone run scheme.
Kind of stuff. Broncos would be huge for him. Patriots, like there's a lot of opportunities here for Devin Neal really to skyrocket his value.
Yeah.
We've been talking a lot about both of those. Both of those guys have gone from maybe our RB 8 to 10. They're moving up. Again, if they get the right landing spot, I have no problem moving them over into that tier, in that A tier. Like, it's going to be a very fluid process. Another guy that had a fantastic Senior Bowl, and that, there's some under the radar kind of guys that you and I both liked. Sell me a little bit on Brashard Smith, because he looked good. He looked sharp. I know a lot of people have really started to move him up his boards. Right now, you and I did our last top 24 Superflex mock. He was not in there. He looks like a round 3 guy, but he could also be a round 3 NFL draft. I mean, like in today's draft system, he's a converted wide receiver who could put up some pretty nice PPR numbers.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that's really fun to me, because we're just going back to that. What stands out to an NFL team and to a drafting room when you're looking for day 3 type running backs? You got to be really good at something. And this is something that I've been talking to Zoltan a lot about. We got to understand that these running backs, there's so many ones that are just pretty solid at everything. We want to find someone that has an elite trait or that's really good at something. And Brashard Smith has that. He's a dynamic receiver out of the backfield. He literally was a converted wide receiver. Like he was at Miami as a wideout, transferred to SMU, played running back, and put up 1,000+ yards and ridiculous stats as his first year as a running back. I think he was like 5'9", 195. So he was kind of in that like Devon A-chain like type size and role. But he's a guy that he can literally run routes. Like it's ridiculous. His film was phenomenal. In 2024, he had 39 receptions, 327 yards, and 4 touchdowns. He also had 1,300 yards in the rush game and 14 touchdowns. So he was the reason SMU got to where they got. 74 first downs in the rushing, 52 missed tackles forced. Like I'm looking for guys with elite traits. And if they don't have any, or if they're not really good at something, they're off my board or I'm bumping them way down. And I ended up bumping down some of these guys like Trevor Etienne, Jordan James, some of these type of running backs because they just don't have those elite traits. They're pretty solid at everything. But why are you going to get on the field over like a Devin Singletary, who was also really solid at everything? Like, you know what I mean? So that's kind of where I'm like, if I'm like the Broncos picking in round 4 and I'm like, okay, I need like a dynamic joker, I'm going for a Brashard Smith. If I have pick 5, the 5th round pick, and I'm like, okay, I need a receiving back that's great in pass pro, and I'm going for a LeQuint Allen, right? I'm not saying I need Jordan James to replace Isaiah Pacheco. I'm not saying I need Trevor Etienne to come replace Devin Singletary. Like, why? Go get someone that's good at something, like really good at something. So that's where I'm at with Brashard Smith. Right now with my updated running back rankings, he came in at my RB10.
Nice.
Dylan Sampson. We'll do at the end. We'll do like a quick hitter so you guys can see all of our tiers and what they look like right now. But he's right after Sampson and Gordon for me. He's an early day 3 grade for me. Sultan feels very strong about him as well. A guy that I trust his opinion. He does a great job in the film game. So I'm really high on Brashard Smith right now because I know he's going to be a good receiving back and he's going to get on the field early on because he's a willing blocker and pass pro. He's dynamic in space. You can put him in the slot. You can put him outside. He can win routes. That's the type of player that I'm looking for, that joker type thing, as Sean Payton would say.
Yeah, and sticking with the Senior Bowl and sticking with guys that have an elite trait. I mean, someone that is impressive burst, elusiveness, really popped at the Senior Bowl, probably helped his stock more than anybody is RJ Harvey. Like he had a really impressive Senior Bowl. Probably going to be somebody that goes round 4, not your 1A, but a solid 1B. But we get him in the right committee, and I think you have something here. I think he's going to you end up seeing him go to the Chiefs, or you see him go into one of these powerhouse teams that have an open, ambiguous RB situation. He's kind of fun. Like I don't think he's going to be an elite level prospect, but he's someone that's definitely moved up boards.
Yep.
As has Damien Martinez. Damien Martinez, I know you love. He's moved up. I mean, it's tough when you see running backs move down the board, but all these guys keep putting things together that you're like, okay, I like what I see here. This is getting better.
The thing that I love about Martinez, one, he checks every box. He didn't hit the 20+ reception mark that we look for, but he's a capable receiver. He's a powerhouse between the tackles, like 4+ yards after contact per attempt, broke out at 18, 3 seasons with close to 1,000+ yards. Like the production stands out. His vision, his patience, his power, his elusiveness at his size. He's like 5'11", almost 6 feet, 226 pounds, like absolute bruiser. I started thinking really good on this one because he's a Devin darling to me. I really have always liked him when he was at Oregon State. And then when he came to Miami, I was like, what stands out best about him? And it's those traits, those intangibles of being a between the tackles runner, consistent on early downs, power, elusiveness, vision. Brian Robinson had all those traits coming out. He was a 3rd round or a fourth or 5th round pick. Ramondre Stevenson, same deal. Another day 3 guy, had all those traits coming out. Jamal Williams, another guy, had all those traits coming out, and he was a day 3 pick. Damien Martinez comped out to all 3 of those guys for me. I think that's the type of role he would play. I have him rated out as an elusive bruiser, and he's a committee plus type player, so I can be that 1B, that David Montgomery. Like I could see the Bears, if they want to completely reshape that RB room and Ben Johnson wants his guys, I could see him going TreVeyon in round 2 and then going and getting a Damien Martinez in round 4 or 5. Playing that kind of Montgomery, Jamal Williams role. So I'm excited. I can see him slotting into a couple different situations, but he's another one. He had a great Senior Bowl. He moves very well for his size. Like I think he was 230+ pounds during the season, which is incredible about him. But yeah, who's your next guy here that you like? Like, let's go a little bit deeper. Let's go into some of these guys that people aren't really talking about too much.
Before I do that, I really wanted to bring up, there are multiple windows where players are going to increase in value. One guy you don't hear a lot about and that I absolutely love that is going to rip up the combine is Dylan Sampson. Like that, we're not talking about him right now because that's not what we're going to see. But when you see this guy run in the 4.35s, that's going to be guys are going to shoot up boards once you start to see that. My biggest thing when it comes to the combine is don't double count it. Like we always talk about this guy runs a 4.35. We freaking knew he was going to, like he shouldn't move up, but it just happens, like we're going to end up double counting things that changed the game quite a bit. Harvey was one of the deeper guys that I'm looking at. I think he's really got a shot. Brashard Smith was one of them. There's a couple other guys that are kind of, Woody Marks is one that's kind of stuck out to me. Just looking at, I know he's older, he's 24, 5'10", 215 pounds, but this guy just is a reception machine. You look at multiple years, over 60 receptions. He's just something that I think you talk about an elite trait. His pass catching ability is phenomenal. Like you get him there. He's a security blanket. He's very Rashad White, James White type player where he's a great pass catcher. And if we see him really take the next step as a running back, I mean, I think he really fits nicely into a lot of today's NFL teams.
Yeah. So I talked about Brashard Smith. My second guy in this class that is another one that can be deployed. He's an elite receiver, very good in pass pro, LeQuint Allen out of Syracuse. These two guys are two of the running backs, and we'll talk about this last guy at the end, but there's three running backs in that day 3 range that are like more like that deeper sleeper type that I'm going to be going after everywhere I can get them. LeQuint Allen, back-to-back 1,000+ yard seasons as a rusher at Syracuse. As soon as Sean Tucker left, he took over and he dominated that running back room. 64 receptions and 500+ yards this past season. I tweeted it, or I don't know if anybody listening heard this or saw this, but I tweeted, if there's anybody that's going to be like that Rashad White, Antonio Gibson, like that day 3 type, like receiving type running back, it's going to be Brashard Smith or LeQuint Allen or both. Like they both slot out to be that type of player to me. Like you can deploy them in the slot. They can win with pass pro. They can win with their feet. Good fluid movers. Those two are guys that skyrocketed up into the top 15, top 14 of my rankings. Sell us on this last guy here of who you're thinking about, and let's jump into my last guy, and then we'll go into the running back tiers.
You're gonna go with Tootin, aren't you? Is that gonna be your last guy? No. There's a lot of guys. You look at what Brooks. He did.
Tahj Brooks.
Oh, I know you've been talking Tahj Brooks.
I love
quite
Tahj
a bit
Brooks.
Here. This class just keeps getting deeper and deeper, and I think the important part, and we're going to dive deeper once we get into a lot of these guys. Talk about round 3, round 4. You shouldn't be drafting wide receivers when you're talking about your rookie drafts in round 3, unless it's like deep sleep type of opportunities. We want you guys smashing guys like Brooks and making sure we're going out there and we're taking a shot on Smith, and we're getting those opportunities, because so many times you fall in love with a wide receiver during the process. They go in round 4 or 5 and you're like, yeah, but I knew better. It rarely pans out. For every Puka that's 1 in a million, you have 100 of these other guys where they end up not panning out in round 4. So sell me a little bit on Brooks. I'm just excited about the class in general, because the running back class the last year was just like, ooh, we want to make this happen. We're just trying to push it. And now it's like we're about to get a shot in the arm that we really need.
Yeah, the thing I loved most about Tahj Brooks, again, I'm thinking, okay, day 3, what stands out? It's the patience, it's the elusiveness, and it's the vision. He was 5'10", 230+ pounds, and the dude has like the craziest elusiveness in the short areas I've seen. Like he is so much like Le'Veon Bell. He's not going to be Le'Veon Bell. The odds of him being a Le'Veon Bell is incredibly high, but that's like what I thought of when I was watching his tape. It's that processing. Okay, my box formed. Now I'm gone. Like that's the type of player he is. Decent burst. His athleticism isn't great, but he's so elusive and so smart with the way he runs the football. He's almost too patient sometimes, where it's like, hit the hole. Like you'll pick up 6, 7, 8 yards. Instead, he's like delaying. And then he ends up only getting like 2. But there's so many plays where that there's getting ridiculous amount of interior pressure from the D tackles and the defensive line, and he just makes a miss and picks up 8-9 yards. Like, he's so gifted with that ability. I just see so much Le'Veon Bell, and it's like when you see that type of running back, that's that 230 plus pound back that can move that elusiveness or that elusive in short areas, that stands out to NFL teams. And to me, it's like he could find himself a role being a 1B or being a guy that's a 1-2 change of pace type guy with an elite receiver type running back. Like, that's he has a little Demont in his game. He has a little Le'Veon Bell in his game. That's probably like best case scenario ceiling is like a Demont or like a Jamal Williams type of player, but like back-to-back 1,500 plus yard seasons, still 22 years old. He forced 96 missed tackles in 2023. He rushed for 88 plus first downs in back-to-back seasons in 2024 and 2025. Back-to-back 1,500 plus yard seasons. Like, he's a guy that I love the production. He stands out as a receiver. He's a good committee plus guy, elusive, patient, vision. Love that type of running back. So he's someone that trickled up my boards. He jumped up like 7 spots after getting to watch him. So
right now, now that we're in February, we did this for you in January. Our current tiers that we're looking at is the S tier is Ashton Jeanty all by himself. Number 2, and this is multiple guys here in that A tier, TreVeyon Henderson, right now, a workhorse back that we have at 2. Quinshon Judkins still at 3. Yep. Caleb Johnson at 4, and Amarion Hampton at 5. So that's 5 guys that are in that workhorse type mentality. Then we go to our B tier where we have Cam Skattebo and Devin Neal, both of them projected starters. If they get the right landing spot, could be workhorse type of guys. So keep an eye on that. That could change quite a bit. Then we go into our 1B type players, our players that, they're a guy that in a committee they have standalone value, likely don't jump into that right away. But a lot of times we have these guys, and then in Dynasty, an injury happens, and then these guys go off, like a Zach Charbonnet, where you're looking at a 1B, not an insurance running back, but a guy that's going to get 10, 12 touches a game. That's our C tier right now. We're looking at Dylan Sampson, Ollie Gordon, Brashard Smith, and Damien Martinez in that one, or is he going to the next one?
He's in the next tier. He's the start of the next
one. So that's our there. Then we go into our D tier. This is our committee plus. We're looking at Damien Martinez, DJ Giddens. We're talking Jordan James, LeQuint Allen, Tahj Brooks, RJ Harvey, and Trevor Etienne. That is 17 deep right now. We haven't even.
Those are all guys I would guarantee you get drafted. All get drafted, guaranteed. Yeah.
And this next guy, this class is so special.
Yeah, and we have in this last tier here, we have guys that we have Brashard Smith, if that's how you say his name, and then we have Jarquez Hunter, Raheem Sanders, Woody Marks, Kyle Monangai, Donovan Edwards slots in there. So that's like that kind of that next tier. Those are like those mid to late day 3 guys that maybe if they have a big combine could slot in and be like a good handcuff. But these are all handcuff guys to us, like guys that will get drafted. Like, I really like Jarquez Hunter and Woody Marks the best out of this tier, but I think these guys are all going to get drafted and be like RB2s or 3s on a roster, like kind of like your Deuce Vaughns, like those type of running backs, right? That come in like day 3 and they just sit, or maybe like your Hassan Haskins, like that round 6, round 7 guy. But yeah, this class is so deep. All 22 of those running backs we just named, I guarantee you they get drafted, or at least 21 of them do. I love it. I love that 1B tier, that 8 through 10. I think there's going to be good value. And I think with good landing spots, and if one of them has, like you said, a Dylan Sampson or Brashard Smith runs in the 4.3s and crushes the combine, they could find themselves making some money on day 2 or sneaking into that early round 3, that round 4 range. So I'm excited for it. I'll let you kick it over to the outro.
Yeah, I mean, right now we're talking about the Smash Accept Patreon. You guys don't want to be the guy that drafts Roschon Johnson in the 2nd, the guy that took Treylon Burks in the early 1st, the guy that took Quentin Johnston at 106, the guy that reached on Jonathan Brooks, all guys that we were like, hey, pump the brakes here a little bit. This is how it goes. If you guys want to be in a community where you're going to get help with your draft, not just from us, but there's 550 guys in there talking all the time. Snoog and I have shared this with you guys, like nonstop video of people talking trades, people talking draft strategies, trying to move. We've been talking a lot about trade windows and trade pockets. We're going to continue to evolve what the tiers look like, but trading into the bottom of a tier is the biggest way to win in your rookie draft period. Like knowing where these tiers are going to be, we're starting to find these pockets. If you can get into the end of a tier instead of where that break is, now all of a sudden you're getting, you're going to get Devin Neal in a nice landing spot as opposed to, your wide receiver 6 in a mediocre landing spot. You're going to really differentiate where you're at. Nobody better to do that with than Snoog. No place better to do it than in the Smash Accept Patreon. So check it out. $5 a month. Thanks again for tuning in, guys. Link is below. Enjoy the process.